Hello and welcome to this really special edition of the Big Fight, and it's special because we're doing it in Goa and because what we're going to be seeing over the next 45 minutes or 1 hour is a real exercise in transparency. Today we're going to be taking a look in some detail at a very crucial aspect of Make in India, and especially what India can do to take its defense sector forward, including from the point of view of seeing if we can actually shift a lot of our defense procurement right here to the country. And I'd like to first start off by welcoming the Defense Minister, Mr. Manohar Parrikar. So it's a real pleasure to have you with us, and I have to say, as an exercise in transparency, you do have a reputation of being one of the most transparent ministers, and to be able to sit and have a discussion like this on a stage with all the people who are potentially wanting to work in the area of defense in India is really great. So thank you so much, sir, for agreeing to do this. And I did say we have everyone on the stage who perhaps might have a stake in this one way or the other. So Phil Shaw, the head of Lockheed Martin India, thank you for being with us. Prakash Shukla, who's the chairman of Mahindra Defense and Mahindra Aerospace. We have David Perry, who's the president of Northrop Grumman International Trading. Thank you so much for being with us. Jayant Patil of Larsen and Toubro. We have Colonel Rajendra Bhatia, who's the president and CEO of Bharat Forge Defense and Aerospace. And Professor Amol Gokhale from IIT Bombay is going to be giving us some overall expertise. So it's a very ambitious idea that India, which obviously is one of the largest spenders in the field of defense in the world, but imports everything, and we used to import it entirely from imports a lot of it, not everything. Can we really become a defense manufacturing hub, or is that what you have in mind?
This being a specialized technologies and lot of development and lot of procedural bottlenecks, being a sensitive technologies, may take some time to really achieve the real target. But I think we have made the beginning, and we intend to do it with a reasonable time frame. The acquisition priorities is Make in India today. So you will find Acquisition Council, DAC, Defense Acquisition Council, giving approvals for mostly Make in India or Buy and Make India.
So to the extent, sir, that you are going to face an issue between the Air Force and the Navy and the Army would want the very best equipment and the most advanced technology, and that's what they need for the defense of the country. How are you going to layer that with the imperative to try and make as much of it as possible in India? Is there going to be a clash sometimes between the two objectives?
I don't think. For example, a lot of people predicted that LCA project is absolute, will not take off because Air Force was not very supportive of it. But I found the real reason is no one is sitting in between the Air Force, HAL and ADA to sort out the issues they have. They obviously have some concerns. Moment this exercise was done 2-3 times with some modification, you now know that they have already agreed to buy 100 of modified LCAs, and the process of ordering them will continue. So Make in India has an aspect, but simultaneously I have told HAL to take assistance if required for part of development through various international consultants if they want. So one way there is an immediate need for which we are going for high technology item. It's like hunger. I have empty stomach in the afternoon, so I have to eat in the afternoon. I can't keep it for tomorrow based on my planning, but I need to.
Can we get that acceptable quality in India, I think is the point I'm trying to get to.
See, one thing you have to realize, there is a saying that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's also true for developing or supplying arms to if there is a monopoly results into poor quality, and absolute monopoly results into absolute poor quality. Private sector can be also a part to it, and let there be competition. Of course, sometimes the private sector expects a very fast overnight change in attitudes. That may not happen with that speed, but the process of getting private sector into the defense has begun, and I don't see even areas of single vendor situation where with proper auditing, why can't we involve private sector into the defense?
Lockheed Martin obviously has pitched in the past also to sell various, the F-16 and other products to India. Is Make in India a real possibility for you?
Well, we certainly think so, and I agree with what the Minister said. To some extent, we've had some experience of making India here ourselves already in the private sector. We established a capability in Hyderabad to provide a very large aerostructure components for our C-130J platform, not just for India, but for the global market. So they're all made in Hyderabad, shipped to America, and put into the production line to be sold anywhere in the world. And that's been a real success. The quality of components and so on that we're getting out of there is great. So I think we could do a lot more.
So for companies like Mahindra also, is the fact it's been opened up to the private sector, is that big for you, and does this become something which is a major potential area of growth?
There are 7 or 8 countries which have the defense industry. Who are they? The winners of the Second World War, or you can put it other way, 5 permanent members of Security Council. The US, Russia, China, UK and France. And then who are the others? The losers of the Second World War, Germany and Italy. Subsequently, the eyes have developed. So India, Israel, and there are 1 or 2 other eyes who have tried to develop. What it requires to make in India? There are only 3 requirements. First and foremost, there should be requirement. Second, is there technological manpower? Yes. And that brings us to the third factor. Do you have Indian corporate entities who can play the role of platform builders in due course, with 3 elements being suppliers to the platform builders? The platform builder is one, design capability is second, then there are components and part suppliers, and lastly, not the least, material.
So you're saying there are companies which can do a lot of this?
Yes.
Should that be the case?
So we meet all 3.
Right. In defense, India could become a defense hub, not just for our own use. They have the economies of scale, you have the companies, and this could actually become a driving force for the economy itself.
Absolutely. Because defense, you have much more control. For civil component, I have multiple agencies manufacturing. If I go for a defense platform, you may not have adequate number, that is number one. For example, if I want to build submarines, I can't order 200 submarines. And number 2, there might be not enough capabilities across globe. That is an advantage as well as disadvantage.
Right.
It can be converted into an advantage provided you go with a focused and transparent. And I'm mentioning here, single vendor does not mean non-transparent.
Before I come to you, just wanted to get in David Perry out here. Of course, one of the issues with what has just been discussed is if, for example, you're building the state-of-the-art aircraft carriers, as you do, the Gerald Ford and sort of range, which now you're building for the United States, or the B-2 stealth bomber, which again you're building, is that the sort of stuff that is so much money is going into R&D, into development, that it's difficult to make that in another country like India? Or can there be parts of that which can be done here?
I think there's the vast majority of what would be required to deliver a system like that is it's possible to create the conditions where that could be done here in India. The first is talent. You have to have access to the talent that could serve these needs. And you can look around this crowd and the greater population of highly trained professionals here in India, and it's more than sufficient to deliver on that. Secondly, you have to have the industrial capacity and capability in country to marry up with that talent. You have that already. What we don't have, and I hope this isn't offensive, and I think the Minister was great at pointing it out earlier today, the business conditions and the velocity at which decisions can be made to keep pace with technology, to bring all 3 together, is what we have to work on. Because when we figure that out and we develop the velocity for decision making, and we can bring capital to this market, and companies like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman and Boeing and everyone else can join together to create an industrial capability here, not just for India, but for the entire globe, that's how you make it in India.
Velocity of decision making. Mr. Parrikar, would you agree with him that that's been, in defense, a really serious issue? And for various reasons, we've not been wanting to go and bid for new systems because of corruption.
It's not always velocity which matters. It is directional velocity which matters. I see in the Rafale deal or MMRCA, multi-role medium aircraft, medium aircraft. I saw it was lot of velocity, but it was rotating velocity. The file was going back and forth and back and forth. So it's a directional velocity. What you want, how you want, is what is important. Whether your partner in getting that is X, those who are sitting here or they are not sitting here, is a part of transparency. The decision does not mean there is a question mark on the decision. Decision can be transparent with logic. Even if someone does not agree with you, you can logically work out why I am taking a different decision. If I have to, someone told me in the department that how can you write something, though I don't do it on every case, how can you write something which is not written? I said, I know, I have been chief minister and most of the file comes and the decisions are made by the clerk who sits in the department. He writes something, sometimes negative, sometimes positive, and that gets endorsed at every stage. Hardly anyone goes into it. I remember when I was chief minister, one of my friend came with a 3-page proposal for a very good project.
Right.
So I just wrote on it and sent it to concerned secretary, and Pat, within 8 days I got a reply saying that we can't accept it. I asked him, why you can't accept such a good proposal? He said it is only 3 pages. So I called my friend, told him you put up 200 pages document and last conclusion you put these 3 pages. In 3 weeks the report came positive because no one had gone through the full
First 300. People also don't want to take decisions because if you buy the Rafale, then they are saying, why didn't you buy the F-16? Boeing is saying, why didn't you buy the F-18? Sweden is saying, why didn't you buy the Griffin? Somebody is saying, why didn't you buy the Eurofighter? And the same is replicated everywhere. And then you have TV channels where people are waving papers and saying, why did you do X and why did you not do Y? Is that, let's face it, that is the big issue, isn't it? Or has been one of the big issues.
It is an issue, but I don't think that can be a, if you are transparent. For example, as a politician, I am ready to put myself on any platform anytime on the matter of probity and character integrity. So if my decision is based with a very clean background, I don't think people question them much. I took a decision recently. I got 38 letters without name, unsigned, on the decision I took on Apache and Chinook. I read through everything, apply my mind, analyze what were positive and realize that we have to take decision quickly in the interest of forces, because we were down to 1 heavy lift helicopter and we were down to 15 fighter helicopters. In another 5 years, I may be 0 and maybe 10. So do you get, because just because we cleared the project now doesn't mean I get it tomorrow. It will take 3 years to 4 years to get those platforms. So if I go through the cycle again, the cost increases, don't gain anything more than same products probably with a higher cost, because there are only 1 or 2 competitors. I went to the merit, I went to the process. I was convinced that it is within the limitation, whatever some minor issues had to be explained were explained.
Let me just get Mr. Patil, Colonel Bhatia and Professor Amol into this also. Mr. Patil, the point of decision making, which has been an issue in the past, is that one of the reasons, has that frustrated companies like Larsen & Toubro or Bharat Forge for that matter for a fairly prolonged period of time? When will private sector companies be allowed to get inside? When will decisions be taken?
Decision delays absolutely have been frustrating, and let me not mince any words on it. But where we expect a decision logically can be made, let's say 6 months time, we have seen decisions don't get made for years. When you have the 3 C's chasing you all the time, will you and can you make a decision? There's a CAG, there's a
CAG, CBI.
So with those kind of things, one actually keeps hearing this in the layers of the government, that if I make a decision and if my pension is going to be stopped because of that, where do I go?
The key point there is what is the manufacturing ecosystem which is required to take it to the next level. There are two parts to that system, and I'll give you specific examples. First part is on research and development, which means technology bandwagon, innovation and the disruptive technologies. And on the manufacturing side, you will look at capability, capacity and competence. You would find there is hardly any startups in defense. There is hardly any innovation which is going on. Wherever somebody has set up an innovation platform, and Raksha Mantri would probably endorse that, it is so difficult to push through that platform because the payments, there is a problem, there is an issue with innovation being done, and there is a trust deficit. So I think we need to move towards creating this manufacturing ecosystem, and which has to be at all levels, which is the key to this success.
Right. Of course, startups in the area of defense are slightly more problematic. I mean, you could set up a small e-commerce or a website somewhere, but for a person out of college to say, I'm going to make an aircraft carrier, it's a bit more difficult.
No, but there are many elements.
But there are individual areas, absolutely.
And the technology comes from those innovation platforms.
Right. Professor Gokhale, before I come back to the Minister, your take on what we need to do differently now?
100% indigenization in manufacturing should not be the goal. It should be the sovereign control on the intellectual property, the innovation and the technologies. If that is the goal, where you manufacture is not an important thing. And so the question is how the innovation potential of the country and the intellectual property can be tapped in the overall Make in India story. And the apprehension that the R&D community has is that once technologies are brought in from outside, they become sort of redundant. And there are a lot of people who are nearly there but not quite there, and they would like the government to sort of handhold them and take them to the logical end in terms of deliveries of products. And they are worried that the Make in India will actually make them redundant.
See, the point which is mentioning about Make in India becoming an issue, let me just give you a little picture on the top. We talked about GDP growth, and Raksha Mantri did mention about that. If India's GDP today is about 1.9 trillion or close to 2 trillion, we are hoping that in next 7 to 10 years it will touch 6 trillion, and we are expecting 25% coming out of manufacturing. If 25% comes out of manufacturing today is about $350 billion, it needs to go to 1.4 or 1.5 trillion dollars, 4 to 5 times increase. Where does it come from? It only comes from manufacturing, and manufacturing is the only way you can take, and defense has to be there.
Let me just come back to you on some of the themes that were spoken about. And I'm sure you're working very hard in trying to change this mindset of what was just said, Ki, let's not take decisions, let's try and push the file away, don't acquire any systems. And that's one of the reasons why I think India is in a crisis which you were talking about, that we've actually not gone out there and purchased systems in a range of areas because of these issues.
Let me first go through 3 C's, CVC, CAG and CBI. As a Chief Minister, one who was dismissed because of political reason, I have faced all these 3. I faced CBI inquiry on my decision to complete and execute a project called as INOX now. It's an old Goa Medical College. You have seen that project where IFI takes place. We did it in 6 months. 6 months including period required to remove the old structure, getting the people who are occupying that, of course government departments, out of that place. And it's not easy to get a government department out. 46 departments were stationed in. We got them out in time, in 8 days. We made alternate arrangement for them. We removed the structure. It was constructed during Portuguese time, so the concrete was of excellent quality. It took us almost blasting to remove it. Put up a new structure, all done in 6 months, an international class of screens for film festival. This full issue was referred by the next government to CBI twice. I went through that pain of getting my headline published that Parrikar to be charge sheeted in next 6 months. He is a part of shame of Hall. I spoke to that editor who published that and told him that when CBI says that there is nothing, are you going to publish reverse way? You are not. You are defaming me just because something is referred to CBI. I always said I am ready to face any probe. Finally, CBI came with a clear cut that there is nothing in this wrong done. Now that did not stop me from taking up this project. This is not only one indoor. There are 4 stadiums like this.
So I'm sure there must be bureaucrats who will say, as he was saying, why do I go through the jhanjat? Why should I sign off on any paper? I pick this, ship versus that ship. Tomorrow somebody is chasing
you have
me.
also a role. Media has a role to change this attitude, because I feel that in India, anyone who is doing industry is seen as if he is looting the nation. He is doing something wrong. He is creating an asset which actually results into employment, generation of wealth for others also. So as long as he follows a legal guideline, does not cause major damage or does not go beyond legal permissions, does not damage the environment, I think it should be welcome. But we see big industry or industrialists as something which is negative all the way, and we should start recognizing that there are grey areas. While manufacturing is being focused, R&D is not being left out of part of Make in India. When the final draft will come, it very clearly has an areas for R&D, but I don't intend in reinventing a wheel. So if something is already available and I cannot economically develop it or manufacture it, there is no point in going for that manufacturing. Even when I say about fighter aircraft, if we develop, let us say, any one of these which are on the platter for our Air Force, I can't expect them 100% manufactured in India. They have an ecosystem across globe. They have got some 20-30 countries, he will vouch for it, he will also vouch for it, who are supplying material. Aircraft carrier, for example. We are doing the second one. The next one which is being thought of is going to be only one in its kind. So how many systems you will develop across globe? You have to choose from available system. So you will reach levels from 30% of indigenous to maybe 40, 50, 60, 70.
I did get a chance to speak to the chairman of Boeing, James McNerney, the global chairman of Boeing, who was here yesterday, and he made an actually rather interesting offer. He said that, we are willing to make in India a state-of-the-art fighter, should you want to. So this is what James McNerney said yesterday.
There will be a fighter campaign in this country over the next couple of years. Our approach is going to be to take a current state-of-the-art fighter, and our bid will include a proposal to make the plane here. I think the value to India is a very modern production system, integrated to make a very sophisticated machine. I think that kind of industrial base capability is as important as the fighter itself, because these modern manufacturing techniques, I won't go into all the details, but if you can pull together 2 million parts and produce something that efficiently, that capability can go into many industries around India.
We are in process of finalizing the acquisition plan for the Air Force. So once that is finalized, after Prime Minister approves it, which will happen very soon, we can select through a process a local partner and then go to one of the big companies through maybe government to government or direct for the technology. It should be state-of-art technologies along with the technology in certain aspects at least. IPR should be protected, no doubt about it. And when I said we should reach 70%, your production can be much more, because if you are going to import, say from US, a particular type of equipment for a aircraft carrier or a fighter bomber or multi-role aircraft, you are also going to export either the aircraft or that component.
So just to check from you, is this the sort of a thing which many global companies perhaps might start being interested in?
Yes, I think we're all looking at it and determining which platforms may be of use in India, but we're certainly very willing to look at transferring as much as we can into India, but obviously that will take time to build up the ecosystem that people have spoken about, the MSMEs and so on. That
In your case, I mean, I know that there's been a lot of talk, for example, about the United States and India partnering in aircraft carrier technology. So is that again something on the anvil?
I would say that we're not just thinking it, we're doing it. We're just not doing it in India as much as we're doing it elsewhere because of the challenges that we just talked about. And so the opportunity exists to accelerate the rate at which we create that ecosystem so that India can become part of this global defense marketplace rather than playing catch up on it.
One of the things that the Boeing chairman also did say is that the civil nuclear deal, in a sense, has made it much easier for example, if there's to be any talk about the stealth technology or the stuff which you use in B-2 and other bombers, is it easier now for American companies to do business in India?
I don't know that any one deal makes it easier. I think it helps to set a stage to allow expectations to be elevated, but every deal has to be analyzed by both governments and it has to stand on its own. So I think it would be imprudent for any of us to promise that what the U.S. government would decide, but I think there's a great willingness, more than a willingness, there's an anticipation that we will find ways to accelerate cooperation between our countries and share as much technology as we can.
A clear counter on that. Our space sector actually did not come up with any great foreign help. Our nuclear sector did not come up with any great foreign help. Within defense, our strategic sector, we have every possible capability, and after doing that maturity, then you say with a foreign partner, let's collaborate, let's bring your knowledge, I bring my knowledge, sit on a table, make a new product available, create a new product, and that you can do, believe me, in 1 year.
So let me
it's a time actually to trust on our own industry and say that we can do it here.
Okay.
And that's exactly what we see going forward, truly in Make in India.
See, just an example, we talked about manufacturing capability competence. We have 7 plants in Germany right now, and 1 in Sweden, 1 in France, and 1 in Pune. Pune's manufacturing is among the best compared to those plants. And just to give you this
there
example...
might be certain aspects of technology that
no,
we
I'm
don't
coming
have.
to that. We took upon ourselves to make an artillery gun, and we completed that project in less than 2 years, right from start to finish, including system integration, including developing 3,500 new components.
FDI, it's already gone up to a certain level, and there's some debate taking place whether it needs to be more, whether you should have 100% FDI, whether you should have 75 or 76% at a more routine level. Is that something which is going to make a big difference in your view?
I think it's very clearly written there that in specific cutting edge technologies, if required with a specific permission of the CCS, a higher content of FDI can be considered. 49 is automatic route. You want more FDI because of certain specific constraint, then you can ask for that specifically.
Is that good enough for you, or if you were going to make the F-16 in India, I'm not saying that you are, but I'm saying if that was to be something that sort of a thing, then you might want more FDI for that sort of a
not
project.
necessarily.
Or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. It really depends on the little pieces of technology or whatever. But for the actual aerostructure, not necessarily.
Let me get Phil and get you in on this.
I think I disagree with what I just heard because as an American company, we need to apply the governance structure from our corporate policies and procedures into whatever we're doing around the world. And if we don't have the ability to flow that same governance structure down to ensure that it's compliant wherever it's happening in the world, then we won't have the same argument to go make an investment, right? Because the risk and reward is not controlled.
So you would like 100% FDI or more?
We have to have the ability to flow down our procedures, which typically means we need a controlling interest.
Okay, Prakash?
FDI is needed for 2 reasons. Either you need technology or you need money. Now, Mahindra Telephonics, a radar company, was the first company which went from 26 to 49 in India. Very happily, our partner did it. In addition to 49%, you also have technology payment, royalty payments, training fees. Typically, the share of profit of a foreign partner goes beyond 49.
But he's saying he needs control to a certain extent.
Only rarest of rare cases, as has been laid down, there will be a situation when not F-16, which is 30-year plane, but if F-22 or F-34 was being made in India, perhaps, I have no idea. What I'm saying is if it was latest technology, then it will qualify, of course.
Not just for cutting edge, it has to do with guaranteeing the activities are compliant with our corporate structure. wherever it happens in the world. It's less about how elegant the technology is, and it's about assuring our shareholders and our board and everyone else who has an interest that we can control the way in which business is done, no matter where it's done. And that has to do with controlling interest.
To my mind, anything on FDI, when we talk beyond a controlling stake, we have to see what strings get attached to that. Just for an example, the American laws insist that beyond 20%, not even 26, beyond 20%, the export control laws of US need to be followed by a joint venture company in India at 20%. Now, I come out of an organization and an industry which by individual name suffered sanctions for a decade. It's not only the DRDOs and our space research and the Nuclear Power Corporation. And
but just to clarify, FDI doesn't necessarily have to be US centric. I mean, you could be setting up joint ventures with Israel, with France, with other countries.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. That's exactly what I say.
Successful Russian.
BrahMos with Russia.
I have one point here. While we are looking at 100% or something beyond 49%, we need to take experience in India of other sectors where 100% was permitted, and whether anything came into India, either in manufacturing or in FDI. The second part which you have to see is, defense industry is a strategic industry and there is a national interest attached to it. So controlling FDI, there are two parts to it, ownership and control. Ownership is less important. Control is very important.
Okay. So
that whatever IPR comes in the country,
so that's always a critical question. Professor, before I come back to the Minister,
So, if the world was completely free and fair, I wouldn't put any cap on the foreign direct investment. But we live in a world where we have technology denial regimes. We often face them and they vary from time to time and country to country. So when it comes to strategic technology-based industries, I would go for more reliance on the Indian industries, Indian innovation content.
Right. When it comes to defense, you want to make sure that you can control it in times of trouble. Do you at all worry about the reliability of foreign partners in all of this? What's going to happen if sanctions kick in or some argument happens on some other issue later going forward?
Let me be very clear. For me, national strategic requirement will play the priority role. Let us assume for argument's sake, you don't get anything, just for argument. If you get a factory here, you at least get a job. So you have to see it from that spectrum of or ladder of how much make in India.
Right.
So tomorrow if Phil decides that he shifts 50% of his manufacturing base to India, even if he doesn't get orders from Indian defense, I'm very happy.
Right.
So this is the other extreme of it.
He probably won't shift it without some orders from Indian defense.
He doesn't have to worry about it. But what I'm saying is, no, he will do it under offset of whatever has been supplied or is in pipeline, or because he believes that Indian costs can be less. For me, it is foremost that it is security of the country, but followed with that, if that aspect cannot be 100% guaranteed as mentioned, 20% of equity, the American laws kick in. Then at least there are other skill development. If I learn from skill in aerodynamics, engines, those skills can result into development in India. So why lose that advantage? Why lose technical growth? So the best is get everything made in India. But if you can't get the best, that is why I said black and white.
There are always shades of grey that we should try.
So make in India का भी थोड़ा defense में grey areas हो सकता है.
Well, I am going to get. We are running out of time, so I'm going to get closing comments from everybody. But I do want to also get some voices in from the audience, including from the armed forces, whom we do have with us right here in the audience. This is a special event coming to you from Goa, which of course always a pleasure to be here in Goa, not just to have a absolutely enlightening discussion like this and a very transparent way of discussing all issues around the concept of defense, how it goes forward, how we can make in India. But I'm going to do all of that in just 2 minutes when we come back from this break. Welcome back to this really special edition of The Big Fight, and I have to say it's been I haven't done a program like this, and it's really been a very forceful way to go forward. We have the Minister of Defense here, just about all stakeholders in the field of defense on the stage with us, and we've really been trying to figure out how best we can take the defense sector forward, manufacturing in defense, make in India, and a range of issues like that. And we are, of course, coming to you from the Global Business Forum and in Goa. We also have an audience here with a whole range of special experts. So I'm going to try and get some voices from them as well.
My name is Kanan. I'm a retired Vice Admiral. I just want to ask a question that how is MOD ensuring user involvement in Make in India? Because from the naval experience, it's very clear that unless the user is totally involved, you don't have success in indigenization.
First of all, answering Admiral Kanan, in Air Force we have a very robust system that is focused on indigenization, starting with SDI and AST. We are very happy with the way things are going. Okay, everything is coming to speed, and our cases are moving fast, and the trade-off between what we immediately need to have and what we can wait for development in-house, okay, that trade-off is being handled in a very effective manner. So
you're reasonably pleased with the way things are proceeding?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, a view from the Army perhaps?
Right, I am from the Mechanized Forces Directorate, and we look after all that happens with the armored fighting vehicles. There are two major projects of Make in India as per DPP Chapter 2, which are, one is already in progress, which is called the Future Infantry Combat Vehicle. But there is a lot that needs to be done. There's a talent here, but we got to put in place a system where the strengths of the public sector units and the strengths of the industry are leveraged together, so you get the best out of it. And the best example today of that PPP is that the DRDO, VRDE, is producing a wheeled armored personnel carrier in collaboration with Tatas, and that's making a good progress, I can tell you. So there are a couple of issues actually that need to be put in place. People come and tell us that we have the capability to give you what you want, but there is a lack of opportunity for them to actually do it. Now, as far as industry is concerned, the bottom line is that at the end of it you must make profit, otherwise you're not going to sink in your money in making infrastructure.
Okay.
But there is no assured orders that the present procedure allows you to place on you, because there is a procedure existing.
See, as much as we are discussing technology, innovation, the fact is that the standards which are used by the military, most of them are still of the last century. You know, we are 15 years into the new century. So who is working on upgrading the standards? See, technology is changing at a very, very rapid pace. And unless military also understands this and changes the standard, we may talk what we are talking on this panel, but actually when you go and buying, you are buying things which are of the last century. Somebody can throw light, any of the panelists, and then do something about it.
All right, let me just quickly, because we are flat out of time, I'm going to perhaps just get all of you 15 seconds to just sum up, if you will, what you think the top priorities are that the minister and the government might want to keep in mind going forward. Just very quickly.
Let Make in India be supported by Innovate in India. Let the innovation-based small, medium and big companies be supported so that the Make in India can be success in the long term, not just in the short term.
Okay, Innovate in India.
Make in India needs out-of-box thinking. If we go by the regular route, it will take 5 to 7 years to show impact. I think we need something which should show impact immediately.
All right.
I think for Make in India, we have a lot of infrastructure in place, created. We are waiting, raring to go. We need some policy initiatives, which I am sure next couple of weeks, Minister talked about it today, and we can genuinely push and make it happen.
Fine.
I think that the raw ingredients for success in making India, to make India part of the global defense economy, it's all there. We just have to figure out how to bring those basic elements together in a way that's conducive for both the customer, the shareholders, and the warfighters. And when we do that, I think it's going to work.
Right.
I think my colleagues have said practically everything. There are many naysayers, but all ingredients are in place. So what we need is escape velocity. What we need, 2 or 3 projects being announced for Make in India, few billion-dollar projects, and that will build momentum of its own. We need to do it now so that we can do it within the next 3 years.
Escape velocity in one straight direction and not round in not circular velocity.
In IIT we were told speed is different and velocity is different. So we need a proper velocity.
Right. Phil, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everyone has said, I think, and during the discussion today. I think the other thing, which I know the government is concentrating on, is ease of doing business. I think, once some of those challenges are addressed, things will take off much more quickly.
Right, and perhaps that's the final thing I just wanted to ask you, because that has often been said. It was said yesterday by the Boeing chairman also, that overall ease of business in India, tax regime, regulatory concerns, and all those things perhaps also, we need to push. And Minister, that's one thing which I wanted to throw to you, overall ease in doing business in India, and also some of the specific items that you would also be. Had this absolutely great symposium a couple of years back. Lots of items had been done from a short-term point of view, medium-term point of view, and then 3 years out point of view. I'm sure you're tracking all of those to see how they're actually rolling out.
I acknowledge speed and velocity is different. In fact, the moment you said it, I realized technically I made a small mistake, but a lot of people, common man, doesn't understand the difference between speed and velocity. Yeah. What I meant to say is the particular file was going in a very speedily, but not in a directional velocity. Because velocity is a directional and speed can be in any direction. He was technically right. So he technically corrected me. But I'll put it in a very small way. There's a principle that you have to talk about major changes. But when you actually do it on the ground, you have to do it in a stepwise manner. Because there are people who are involved with the system. If something new atmosphere totally comes in, whether you like it or not, the reaction is to reject the new aspect. That's one of the laws of power, a book I read, and I agree with it, that we have been making changes. I think the atmosphere is now conducive. So all the step changes will come as a major change. There is also what they call as speed and awe. That also needs to be done, and very soon that should come into force, where some projects will be declared with proper this. But I have to also take into consideration that the need is so much. There is what is called as financial package given to me, and however efficient I make the rupee, I cannot convert it into a magic rupee. I cannot print the notes. So I can make the rupee more effective. It's not that during last 10 years there was no money spending. There was money spending, otherwise where are the budgets going? I just checked up and I found most of the years the budget was used 100% almost. So where was the money going? Going into things which were not the priority. For the first time we have got priority on board. We have got items which are listed which should go on priority. I find some of them in the second group, but their priority has to be prioritized, all based on this. And that confidence that India is going to move forward in this direction, that needs to be built up. It's slowly coming. Ease of business is very important. For that, mindset will have to be clearly set. Right. I can assure you that as far as defense is concerned, these issues are getting sorted out. Right. In fact, you can ask them in confidence. They will realize, they will themselves tell you that there are efforts being done in this direction.
They're all nodding their heads, which is
no, because I have been interacting with everyone. I have been interacting with them thoroughly, and I know their problem.
So, we keep on saying there are fighting men, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, they're putting their lives on, and men and women, of course, men and women, putting their lives, on the line for the nation. We have to ensure that we can give them whatever support we can, and I'm sure that's an assurance that you'll be giving as Defense Minister.
Yes, of course. And this is one of the major issues, because it not only strategically helps us, it also helps the economy.
Right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. It's really been an enlightening discussion, and as I said, it's a special episode of The Big Fight. We really should do more on this, because an area like defense and issues around it, we've been able to get so much clarity in a public, transparent manner like this. I think it's really been wonderful. So thank you so much, Minister, for doing this, and like to thank all of you and the audience for being here as well. Thanks so much. That's it for now. Back next week on the same show.